Welcome back to Conquering Kalimdor. So today we are finally going to go to Dustwallow Marsh. As you can see, I have all of my followers with me, including a rhino that I tamed and turned into a mount. I colored up his armor a little bit so you can see that it's a bit black. I tried to make it black and red, but it didn't really show up that well, so we're just going to have to make do. Now it's time to finally charge into the swamp and see what it has to offer. The rhinos became available as mounts in the Isle of Sipta, and I think the animation on them is very well done. They look like a giant riding tank. Anyway, as we pull up, you see the Burned Down Inn. This was an area in World of Warcraft where you could get a couple of quests to find out what happened to the inn. Instead, it's invaded by giant spiders, including a spider world boss. But now that I have better armor and I have all of my buddies with me, I decided we're going to take it on instead of just passing it up like I have been the last couple of episodes. It did almost kill me. I had to keep pulling out of the fight and taking potions and bandaging and stuff like that. But it did go down, and after searching the area, it didn't seem that there was a lot in this area, but I did take the skeleton key. I continued to follow the road north. I wanted to see what lied ahead near Brackenwall Village, but first I found a mine, and it had another world boss in it. So it seems this area is going to be full of bosses. Of course the boss was near a bunch of rock noses, but luckily they go down pretty easy, and it was the boss itself that was the harder part. The rock noses were just kind of annoyances at that point. The boss almost did kill me, but luckily I managed to make it through and took a couple of potions. The whole area was filled with obsidian as well, but given that obsidian is easy to find on this map, I didn't really bother to mine it. I took its skeleton key and then I continued on where I saw a dragon flying overhead. Maybe this time I will finally be able to kill the dragon that I've been seeing flying since episode 1. I saw another one far off into the distance, but this one was a lot closer, so I tried shooting arrows at it, but I continued to miss, and that kind of sucked. It eventually got too far away, and I wasn't able to tag it. Even though it stopped right there, I figured, oh wait, it stopped, maybe I can get close enough. But by the time I pulled up to the tree, it started flying away again, and I still couldn't get a hold of it. Anyway, we are at Brackenwall Village, and sure enough, there are ogres using the Frost Giant skin, but they're, tan instead of blue. Unfortunately, they are aggressive. Even though this is a horde outpost in the actual game, they made the ogres aggressive, so I decided to just clear them out and see if they had any loot on them. They did have some pretty good loot, a lot of hardened steel, steel bars. I found a couple of items here and there that were not too bad. Now, these guys still give the frostbite debuff if they hurt you, so that was, you don't want to get hit by that, or else you'll just freeze to death. They also had tusk beasts, so I had to, kill them, get rid of them. The tusk beasts are not really that hard-hitting. They're like as hard as a gray rhino, which is not that bad. You can see I'm using a bow. I think this is a legendary bow that I found off of one of the boxes. I also had some star metal arrows. I don't really need to use the bow, but I thought it was cool. And oh my god, Rend, are you okay? Bro, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. Dude, are you okay? After I hit Rend and I tried getting the arrow out of his head, I went up to the top of the mountain, but it looks like Rend had some bad blood now between me and him and decided to not come up and help me, along with the others. Those jackasses. I mean, come on, I shoot you one time with an arrow and you're gonna act that way? I couldn't take him on by myself. I decided I was just gonna loot the chest and take off. But of course, as I'm getting ready to take off, Rend shows up. I guess he felt bad after leaving me behind, after shooting him in the head. But anyway, all is forgiven, and they all take on the ogre so I could get away. Once I was done with Brackenwall, it was time to continue northward. Over here is where there would have been a spider mine. Well, it was like a mine in the game, but it was, full of spiders. I didn't see a lot of spiders. Instead, there were Blackrock Orcs in a little village that was here. The mine was still there, and you will see me take it on in a moment here. I entered into the village, and they all started to rush after me. We take on the Blackrock Orcs, and it was a giant battle for the village as we raided them, and they were trying to defend their home. They couldn't stand against our might. So I decided to raid and loot their village. And something that I found that was brand new was now there are interactable items that you could just pick off the ground. As you see there on the stand, it's glowing like bright with yellow little sparks, almost like the in-game model. I went to go click on it and I could pick them up. That's actually amazing. That was probably from a newer patch because that was not there last time I played this game. There are a lot of other areas in this map that you could do the exact same thing, so this is not going to be the last time we see an item like that. Though it is, like I said, new, so it wasn't seen beforehand in other episodes. Further into the mine, I did find that room full of star metal and crystals, so that's great. Another area where I could find star metal. But I don't need any right now, so I continue on into the end of the cave, where I find a hanging black dragon. Wow, and it's the actual black dragon model too. Once I cleared out the room, I tried to get a closer look. I'm drawing my bow just so you can kind of see, like, the zoom in, look at the dragon. It is the actual dragon, though it looks a little bit polygon-ish, but I can't really blame the developer for that. I mean, it's kind of hard to import models to begin with. Now that I was done with the cave, it was time to head back out. On the way out, though, there was one other building in the same village that I didn't complete yet, and it had their boss in it. I let my followers take on the boss while I looted the bodies of the other guys, and then I came in and joined in on the fun. We continued to stun lock her, so she couldn't really do anything against us. And unfortunately, she didn't really drop anything that was good anyway, so that was kind of a bummer. She did have a heart of a hero, but I still have not found any place to use the hearts, so I looked around to see if I could loot some gold. There was some gold in the chest, but I couldn't loot any of the piles of gold, which was a little bit disappointing, but don't worry. Later on, actually in the next episode you see, there are piles of gold that I will be able to pick up, but in a different location. Now I am moving east toward Theramore, and I find dragons. It was weird though, because there was a couple of baby red dragons and then an adult green dragon. Usually you don't see those together. But since I've been able to take on the other world bosses, I figured now it's time to take on a fully grown adult dragon. With 24,000 health, almost 25,000 health, we take him on. The dragon almost got the better of me, but I was able to maneuver out of its attacks, well, most of the time. Take some potions. Eventually, I just resorted to using my bow, so I didn't have to be up close while my followers tanked it for me. Once the dragon was felled, I ran on up, and I collected its head. Now, I can mount it on my home as a trophy. Continuing down the road, there are the Alliance Outposts. I didn't really go into the Outposts. I plan to save Theramore and all of the other Alliance towns for the next episode. So, instead of going to Theramore, I just continued along to the beach. Now, this is an area we haven't been to since the first episode. If you remember the first episode, this is the little islands that had the Murlocs on them. At least what were supposed to be Murlocs. These are followers of Dagon, which basically look like Murlocs. Well, now that I'm not a noob in rags, I am fully geared and have followers, so we take on the boss, who's got 7,600 health. Not nearly as much as the dragon, but still, not something I could take on at level 1. Moving on to the Black Hand, we do remember these as well from the first episode. They shot arrows at me while I was trying to take refuge in the boat. I charge on in with the Rhino. It's not really the best idea to fight while on Rhino back, but these guys are easy enough that I just went ahead and did it for the lulz. As my Rhino tries to swim across the ocean in a hilarious fashion, now it's time to take on Alcaz Island. Last time I ran through here and I pretty much died. Well, I didn't die from the enemies, I died because I starved to death, but the enemies were powerful so I couldn't take them on. Now I just kind of rushed on in. I pulled them all at the same time. Once I saw that Black Yeti though, I stopped. There was no way I was going to be able to take on all of them and the Black Yeti at the same time. Once they all grouped up, I went ahead and AoE'd them with a couple of attacks. Though the Rhino wasn't doing that well of a job, the followers seemed to take care of the rest of them. Now that they are cleared out, we can take on the Yeti. The Yeti, again, is another world boss. This seems to be a theme with this zone. I had Gru go in to try to pull the Yeti closer to us, because I saw that one 8-man by the door, and I didn't know if there was any more inside. Luckily, there is actually nothing inside of that building. I was just being paranoid, because I didn't know at the time. But there's your spoiler. Once we got to the end, there's nothing in the building. I let my followers kill the Yeti, and I just kind of sat back and watched. I hit him a couple of times with my rhino, but whatever. I looted the skeleton key, and then I continued on, all the way to the top where the tower is. More raw star metal just laying around, and a freaking silverback gorilla. At first I thought it was going to be another hard world boss battle, but no, I hit him once and he just instantly died. He may have been bugged because I thought they had more health than that. But anyway, now we were going to take on the dungeon. We found this dungeon, again, in the first episode, but I was not, again, able to do it. Now we are able to do it. I skipped through the NPCs there, and we rush ahead to the boss. This is a one-boss dungeon, and he is the only one in here besides a few NPCs. 14,000 health, and this little island continuously gives you corruption. After taking him on, I'd see if he had any gear on him. He had a couple of epic quality loot on him, mainly his helmet. He had an okay sword, a fragment of power, which was always good, and a legendary repair kit. Now where I am would have been the fallen Zeppelin, but there were no fallen Zeppelin. So I did find a baby iguana, and I could not pass that up, so I hopped off my rhino and picked up the baby iguana so I could raise him to be a pet. Heading down south, I wanted to see if I could make it all the way to Onyxia's lair, rushing through hordes of spiders and more iguanas, obviously. Though, as you see up ahead here, there's a green wall of death, which means the zone is not fully finished. You cannot even get to the Black Dragon village. So that was very disappointing for me. I was hoping to get to Onyxia's lair. He may add it in a future patch, but that's going to be the end of this episode, as that's all that Dustwallow Marsh has to offer from what I've seen so far. Of course, there is Theramore, but Theramore will be in the next episode when I go back and I take on all of the Alliance villages that I skipped throughout these episodes. Now to be in the last episode, and I will see you then.